Our Hope, Our Contribution, Our Policy by Luis Q.
And Carlos.
What is climate change? Climate change occurs in different types such as severe storms, change in temperatures, rise or decrease in ocean levels. All of this is caused by one thing: greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are gases such as carbon dioxide and methane gas, which have the ability to trap heat and send it back to Earth. The heat has the ability to keep the planet from being a frozen one. However, since the Industrial Revolution, the levels of CO2 has increased unnaturally due to human activity such as fossil fuels, cars, coal, etc. If this keeps going on, massive consequences will be on our door. There is something we can do though, and our policy will explain it.
This graph is showing that the amount of carbon dioxide has changed immensely due, due to burning fossil fuels and human activity over the past century. The graph on the right shows us the level of CO2 over the last 100,000 years. The temperature hasn't spiked up like it has now.
How do we know climate change is occurring? If it's not obvious enough still, climate change is occurring in a few number of factors, such as many severe droughts and floods that have happened over the few years. And if that's not enough, we have more and more violent storms every single year, and more will come if we don't do something. A very common one is the heating of the earth. Over the few 100,000 years, we have natural heating of the earth, but due to human activity, the levels have been rising and will get even hotter if we don't do anything. Who is affected by climate change? Many organisms have been affected by climate change. Animals in certain areas, such as the poles, are decreasing because of the melting ice. This is caused by global warming, which is heating up the planet too much. It also affects us as well. Climate change can produce violent storms, which causes property damage, droughts, which can vary from damage depending where, and vice versa, which is flooding and can make people many people homeless. This and many other organisms are being affected.
Climate change is occurring right now because of big fuel burning companies. The spike of the Industrial Revolution made many fossil fuel machines and others. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, CO2 levels have risen and us humans have made a very large mess, and forcing our next generation to carry our burden.
Where is climate change happening? Climate change has been happening here on Earth for hundreds and thousands of years, but something's changed. Climate change is spreading everywhere, but the effects have increased. More and more violent storms have occurred. Droughts and floods have been appearing out of nowhere. Also, the heat has increased. Climate change will affect everyone and will cause very large consequences. Go.
Oh, climate change is occurring because of burning fuel. An example is big companies burning fossil fuel and make CO2 while other companies cut down trees. Cutting trees means letting out CO2, and we need the trees to breathe in CO2 and breathe out oxygen. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the acidity of the surface of oceans waters had increased by about 30%. This increase is the result of humans emitting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and hence more being absorbed into the oceans. The amount of carbon dioxide absorbed by the upper layer of the ocean is increasing by about 2 billion tons per year. We know it's happening because of global warming. Example, more ice in the North Pole is melting. Global sea level has risen by about 8 inches since reliable record keeping began in 1880. It is projected to rise another 1 to 4 feet by 2100. This is a result of added water from melting land ice and the expansion of seawater as it warms.
The policy is no more oil-sponsored companies. What is it? Our policy will take time for most people to get used to. In order to reduce climate change, we need to get rid of the largest source of it, oil companies. This policy will stop oil companies from producing any more oil and will sustain CO2 levels due to the fact they produce billions of tons of carbon and other greenhouse gases. Because we know that they will be angry, they can invest into turning a new leaf and become a solar company and make more and more renewable energy for people to buy.
It will help reduce climate change in the environment by melting less ice in the North Pole, causing overflow in cities surrounded by water. This will also help the environment environment by stopping the use of palm oil because people have to remove forests to get the palm oil, which can cause destroying homes of family animals.
Why is it needed? Our policy will help many people in the need of electricity because most of these people live in very poor areas and need to connect to the outside world. It can also bring the majority It can also bring the majority, which is billions and billions of tons of CO2 of carbon down significantly. So then we could stop climate change and hopefully advance to other problems which will be explained. Who
It will help with many places in the world that only have burning fuel as their only source of power. This policy will be used in Africa, India, and China. The reason why it will be used here are because in Africa they burn fuel every day and night. They even throw tar in the ocean. If the policy can work, then it could help with the people that can get cancer because of smelling the gas all the time. India is pretty much the same problem. In China, this will really help because it is the most overused gas place in the world. The people of China even need masks not to breathe in the gas.
When will it be available or implemented? Our policy will take years of hardship due to our presidential leader not believing in climate change. There there are also people that deny it, which will cause arguments and fighting over this decision. Even if we have to tackle all these problems, we can still fix them. What is the next step? Our policy will need national attention to make sure that everyone knows about this. The more people that speak up for this, the more that leaders will hear this call and have to do something about it. Once they hear about this, there will be a big debate about it. But once people find out this is the right way, the voice will get louder and leaders will have no other choice but to do the right thing. Thank you, and the end.